Presented by SIoux Falls Specialty Hospital and Orthopedic Institute. Together, they are the official healthcare and complete training team of the SIoux Falls Storm. The Kurtiss Riggs Show on SIoux Falls Sports Radio, AM 1230 and FM 98.1 KWSN. Here's your host of the Kurtiss Riggs Show, the voice of the Storm, the Silver Fox, Rick Roste.
And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Kurtiss Riggs Show. I'm Rich Roste, and thanks for making us a part of your afternoon on a beautiful March day here in the SIoux Falls area. Coming up on the show today, we'll be talking to the head coach, Kurtiss Riggs, about the games around the IFL, also about the Storm's amazing win out in Colorado, 58-55. That was last Sunday afternoon out in Loveland, Colorado, and what a game it was. And we'll be talking also on the show today with offensive lineman Kyle Bryant and kicker Justin Syrovatka, who hit the game winner from 46 yards out to give the Storm the win out in Colorado. Then later on the show, we'll be giving away 12 free tickets. 3 different times we'll be giving free tickets away for the Storm next home game on April 9th against the Cedar Rapids Titans. And that'll be coming up on April 9th, and we'll give those during the Wingstop ticket giveaway when we go to break. And when we go off the air, we'll take the third caller at 336-1230 to give away those free tickets. Now, for the next 2 ball games, starting this week with Cedar Rapids, then on April 9th when the Storm hosts the Titans back here in SIoux Falls. Radio coverage of the Storm will be on our sister station, KELQ 107.9, and that's where the games will be, again, 107.9 FM. And then starting with the game on April 16th, when the Storm hosts the Wichita Falls Nighthawks, the broadcast will return to KWSN. Now, the Kurtiss Riggs Show is proudly presented each week by SIoux Falls Specialty Hospital, the Storm official healthcare team, and by Orthopedic Institute, the official sports medicine providers of the SIoux Falls Storm. And you can hear it right here on SIoux Falls Sports Radio, AM 1230 and FM 98.1. When we come back, the head coach of the SIoux Falls Storm, Kurtiss Riggs.
The Sheridan Sioux Falls is proud to serve.
When you think rugged, when you think tough, when you think big, think of the best transportation solutions mile after mile. When you think big, think Boyer trucks. Redefining the road.
Eastway Bowl is more than just bowling. It's a full experience entertainment center. Like us on Facebook and visit our website to learn more about the full experience at Eastway Bowl.
What's the smart way to refresh your home? Get inspired by Granite Transformations. See how easy it is to transform your kitchen or bathroom with gorgeous quartz in granite backed by our lifetime warranty. Plus custom cabinet refacing, all without the mess of a traditional renovation. Explore the exciting possibilities at the New Look, New Style celebration happening now at Granite Transformations. Schedule your free in-home design consultation today.
You're listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show, presented by SIoux Falls Specialty Hospital and Orthopedic Institute on SIoux Falls Sports Radio, AM 1230 and FM 98.1 KWSN. Back to your host, Rick Roste.
And welcome back to the Kurtiss Riggs Show. And our opening interview with the Storm head coach, Kurtiss Riggs, is brought to you by the great folks over at Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. They've been longtime Storm sponsors, and they have the best bread in town. And I have to apologize to Tim, the owner over there. I've been calling him Tom. I know better than that. But I got your note, and I loved it. And it is Tim over at Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Kurtiss Riggs. Coach, all rested up after that little jaunt out to Colorado this past weekend?
I'm finally starting to catch up to life and normalcy in Sioux Falls.
That's a haul and a half out there, isn't it?
It really seems like it. You know, I think Billings is probably similar or close, but it just seems like the Colorado trip really takes forever. And, you know, it was quite an adventure, but at least we came home with a win.
You know, when you think about the travel, and basically all of the teams travel by bus except for maybe the longer trips out to Washington. But like for Green Bay, they have to bus all the way out to Colorado also, don't they?
Well, it's up to each team. You know, it's the owners really decide what trips they're going to fly to and which ones they'll bus to. I'm sure there's some teams that will bus all the way to Washington. And then there's teams that, you know, like Tri-Cities and Spokane, I'm sure they fly to most of their trips. I mean, it's nice that they have each other now to play, and then Billings, I'm sure they maybe bus Colorado, but after that they probably fly to all their games from then on. You know, for us, it's always been kind of around that 11 to 12 hours. We'll bus that. Anything more than that, and we're going to fly.
Yeah. And we have a little jaunt down to Wichita Falls, Texas, coming up a little bit later in the season, so we'll get to have some more bonding time on a long bus trip down there, won't we?
We will, yeah. I mean, it's thankfully not all the way to Dallas, but it's still quite a trip, though.
During the past weekend, the Storm had the one game on Sunday, and they were victorious over Colorado 58-55. We'll be talking to the head coach about that in detail in our next segment. But the other game that went on last weekend was actually on a Friday night, and Green Bay Blizzard came up with an upset over the Nebraska Danger in overtime, 66-60. Coach, could you tell us about that game?
It was a good game. You know, Jamal Sewell did not play for Nebraska, and they had two other players suspended because of the fight from the previous week. Mm-hmm. And Green Bay had two players suspended, but they cut those players, so they actually had a full roster. But Green Bay played well. They jumped out early, and then Nebraska came back, got some turnovers, and was able to tie the game at the end and put it in overtime, and then Green Bay was able to pull it out at that point. I was surprised at the amount of points, though, that Green Bay was able to score on Nebraska.
Yeah, because the defense of Nebraska had been doing pretty well throughout the course of the season thus far. As far as what they had been giving up this year, about 220 points for the total season. Big part of that was the 66 given up by Green Bay, but you think of Nebraska, you think much more defense than giving up 66 points, don't you?
Yeah, and with Jamal not playing, you just think, you know, a little more emphasis, a little more focus by the guys realizing they've got to step things up. You know, it took Nebraska a little while to figure out, hey, this quarterback we have playing, his strength is different than Jamal's, and here's where we're a little better, and they got rolling there for a while and were able to catch up because they did get down quite a bit, but they battled back into it, and Green Bay, that's a big win for them, though, especially at home, to be able to get a win and have a great game like that in front of their fans.
That was their first win of the year. They are 1-4 on the season. Nebraska Danger now 3-1. They lead the Intense Conference, followed by Billings at 2-2 and Spokane at 2-1, followed then by Tri-Cities 1-3, and then Colorado winless at 0-4. In the United Conference, the Sioux Falls Storm leading that conference 4-0 on the year, followed by Wichita Falls 2-1, as are Iowa Barnstormers. Then Cedar Rapids, who are the Storm's opponent this coming weekend, they are 2-2 in the year, and Green Bay again 1-4 on the season. Coach, when we come back, we'll be talking about the game out in Colorado. So, folks, stay tuned. You're listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show. This segment brought to you by the great friends over there at Good Sense Deli Fresh Sub. It is Tim, not Tom, and great sponsors, best bread in town. We'll be back. This is Sioux Falls Sports Radio, AM 1230 and FM 98.1, KWSN.
When people people that I work with are family. We get more time with the patients to deliver that personalized care.
I know that our patients are satisfied and happy with their outcomes.
And I've had more than one patient say to me, you know, I can really feel that you guys like being here and taking care of patients. And that's wonderful to hear, because that's the truth.
We give the best care in the world.
And just a better overall experience for the patient.
And that's why I chose to come work here at SIOux Falls Specialty Hospital.
Your body, a remarkable network of bone, tissue, and joints working in perfect harmony. But when injuries occur, that process can be interrupted. At Orthopedic Institute, orthopedic medicine is all we do. We work to get you up and moving again, recreating that perfect harmony, whatever that may be for you. Orthopedic Institute, we're the one to trust to keep your body in motion.
Breathe easier when you have your ducts cleaned by Waterbury. Call us today. Routine services can save you money in the long run. Call Waterbury to schedule yours today.
You're listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show, presented by SIOux Falls Specialty Hospital and Orthopedic Institute on SIOux Falls Sports Radio, AM 1230 and FM 98.1 KWSN. Back to your host, Rich Roste.
And Coach Riggs' weekly game recap is brought to you by our Storm away game viewing party host Eastway Bowl and Eastway Lounge. And the next viewing party is going to be this Saturday as the Storm travels down to Cedar Rapids to take on the Titans, and they had a great crowd out there this past Sunday. Fans had a great time watching and listening to the ball game, and had just had a great time. So if you want to watch the game free, just go out to Eastway Lounge on East 10th Street in Sioux Falls, and you can watch the game and enjoy it with other Storm fans. He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Kurtiss Riggs. Coach came up with the win out in Colorado, 58-55, and you and I were talking about it after the game. That's probably the closest game, most exciting game that we've had for quite a while, and we were thinking back, probably the overtime game out in Tri-Cities was the last one that was that much of a nail-biter, wasn't it?
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think there's been many. You know, we had one down in Allen, Texas, where we had to come back. We were down quite a bit. We came back, took the lead, and had to run the clock out. But nothing to where we had to kick a last-second field goal. It's been quite some time. It seemed like we were on a stretch with Adam Hicks for a while where he was always kicking game-winning kicks for us. But there hasn't been very many of those.
And sometimes with Adam Hicks, he had touchdown-saving tackles that were very dramatic also.
Well, he made them look that way. Yes, that's for sure.
We have quite a few highlights, quite a few things I want to talk about as far as this game is concerned, and here is our first highlight. Picked up by Brandon Johnson at the 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 20, 15, 10. He'll take it all the way to the house. Kick return for a touchdown, Sioux Falls Storm. I never did get that one started. Thank goodness Brandon Johnson Farrell got it finished. Another kick return for a touchdown, and that's something the Storm has had several of this year, and that was a great way to start out the ball game.
That was a great call, Rich. The ending was awesome, because I was sitting there as I was listening thinking, boy, he's really not very excited about this. That was good. You know, Corey's been able to do a lot of the damage, and BJ is that hidden weapon that people forget about, and he's so good back there, and we're lucky to have two very good kick returners.
And Corey had a kick return for a touchdown also, but that was called back because of a penalty. But when you have a constant threat like that, that just puts the other team on edge right away.
It does, yeah, and you see the constant squib kicks, and it's difficult. Sometimes we're getting them clean, and sometimes they're really tough to field, and it'll just continue to get worse, and tougher and tougher as we play. Cedar does a very good job kicking the squib kick, and then when we play Wichita Falls, Rocky Belmonte does a really good job. with his squib kick. So we'll continue to have to find ways to get bodies on bodies and be able to field the ball.
Here's our next highlight. This time, Washington. He and McGee will switch positions. Washington on the line of scrimmage. There's a snap. Back to Fleming. He's going to go for the end zone. Picked off in the end zone and tackled immediately. There was Washington made the stop, but coming up with the interception, Elijah Fields. And Elijah Fields, that is his first pick of the season. And that was great to see that Elijah got that interception. It was anytime your defense comes up with a turnover, that's a momentum swing for the team, isn't it?
Most definitely, especially when, we're giving Colorado all the extra possessions. It's nice to get some in return. And I thought Elijah played very well. He had a big fourth down play where he tips it away as Washington. They were going to Washington for a touchdown. And, that one, too, he was able to get a big pick and stop their drive and get us the ball back.
And getting the ball back he did, and 2 plays later, this happened. Now Peace is in the backfield through the boxes. Tatum. Peace gets the hand up the big opener. He's at the 15, 20, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, into the end zone. Touchdown, Angelo Peace. Huge opening at the point of the attack for that offensive line of the Sioux Falls Storm. A couple of things about that play I wanted to bring out. Peace running the football, also finding the hole and things like that. But it wasn't hard to find it because the offensive line did such a great job at the point of attack. Tell us about that.
Yeah, and once he got through, there was nobody. The safety took a bad angle, and we had our line. They took care of the guys up front and the linebacker. And so Angelo got through there, and it was really just keep going and don't fall. But the line played very well. They had a really, really good game. They did a nice job of really establishing themselves in the trenches and making sure that if we were going to struggle passing the ball at times, we could fall back and rely on the run game.
Here's our next highlight. 54 points scored in this first half, and we still have 3:47 to play. Lorenzo Brown from the right hash, 2 in motion. Takes the handoff. Lorenzo Brown's going to keep it. Works off a block upfield by Brandon Johnson Farrell, and it's a touchdown, Lorenzo Brown. Good block by B.J. at the point of the attack. Lorenzo Brown goes in, rushing the ball. That's his 5th rushing touchdown of the year. For the night, Lorenzo Brown had 3 rushing touchdowns, and he had no passing touchdowns, and that was one of the very few times that we can remember that Storm won a ball game without a passing touchdown, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's tough to think of one where, we didn't have at least one. But I thought offensively we played very well. We just, we had the 3 turnovers that were a huge difference. But when we got in the red zone, the guys did a really good job, and Lorenzo especially did a nice job making sure we finished drives down in there.
And BJ had a great block on that particular drive.
Yeah, I thought overall the guys did a much better job blocking on the edges. I thought against Green Bay we didn't do a very good job. They were the more physical team, and this week the guys, they came out much more aggressive.
Here's our next highlight. And now Syrovatka puts a knuckleballer, gets behind Evans. He tracks it down in the end zone. He's got to get out, or it's a Rouge, and he's not going to get out, and he's tackled for a 1-point Rouge. And in a game that is that tight, every point is huge, and picking up that 1-point Rouge turned out to be, made up for a field goal or a point after that didn't work, so that 1-point Rouge turned out to be quite important in this contest.
It is. Yeah. You want to take points anytime you can get them, and I don't think you ever should try to chase until you have to. But you always want to take advantage of any opportunity, and to be able to get those is just such an added bonus.
In that second quarter, the Storm was outscored 21-7, and you went into the halftime tied at 34. When you were talking to your team at halftime, what were the things that you were bringing out to them as far as how to prepare themselves for the second half?
Well, offensively, it was pretty easy. It was everything we're doing is really good, except we're giving the ball to the other team. And that was pretty much, it was that simple. It was, when we're not giving it to the other team, and they're really unforced errors. we're doing some really good things. And as we sat down as coaches and tried to think about, what's our strengths and our weaknesses right now play-wise, just about everything was really good. It's just trying to go for the home run or the second interception. Lorenzo thought, there was a penalty, and it looked like there probably should have been, but there wasn't. And he can't just think that, I got a penalty, I'll try to make a play here, and end up, getting kind of wrapped up and throwing the ball right to a Colorado defender. And we have to be able to eat it and live to see another play. Our first interception was on first down. We had an open receiver we should have got the ball to. Our second interception was on a second and medium. We should have just, went down. And if you don't get the call, then you have third down and fourth down with our offense. So we've got to have that mentality set, especially as we go into these big games.
Sioux Falls Storm talking to head coach Kurtiss Riggs on the Kurtiss Riggs Show. This is our next highlight. Now they're going to put trips to left side. Too deep. Looking left is Fleming under pressure. Sack first sack of the contest, back to the 10-yard line. And coming up with that sack, Brandon Pagis getting the sack. And one thing about it, pressure on the quarterback is one thing that every team wants to have. And because of that sack, Colorado opted to go for a field goal that they did complete. However, they did not get the full 7 points because they got into the end zone. So pressure on the quarterback, and that was the only sack. I guess the Storm had a sack and a half or something like that. But pressure on the quarterback, that's a tough part of the defense, and that was very important on that particular play.
I thought we got good pressure. I thought at times, though, we created huge lanes for the quarterback to scramble and step up into. But I thought we had pretty consistent pressure on the quarterback. I was surprised at times, though, they did opt for the field goal. At one time they were 4th and 1, and they went for the field goal. And then I really thought they would go for the 2-point conversion at the end of the game. But they opted to put it in overtime. And at home, that's usually the rule, put it in overtime and play it out at home.
And they had gone for 2 on a previous play, and they missed it on the first attempt, but they did complete it on the second attempt. And, during the broadcast, I can't remember if I did talk about that, and maybe was a bit surprised also that they had gone for just the 1-point conversion and to leave that much time on the clock.
Yeah, I just feel like, you're 0-3. You have a lot of new guys. You want to try to build momentum and really turn things around. And to make a play like that could really do that for them. And, it's not to say that things would have ended any differently with that 1-point difference. But, I was surprised. I really was. I was surprised when it was 3rd and 4 and we had that holding call that they declined it and gave us 4th and 4 rather than 3rd and 14.
Sioux Falls Storm is, the game is tied at 55. And there's 2 seconds left on the clock. The kickoff had a good return, and you got the ball out, and there was 7 seconds to go. And I was thinking that maybe you'd go for the kick right then, but you ran a play and still got to save 2 seconds. And those extra yards are important to a kicker, aren't they?
They really are. And we did something different than most people. We ran the ball, too.
Yeah.
We felt like we could run it and get 5 yards. And we actually even told Angelo, you get 5 yards, stop and go down. Just we feel like we're in a pretty good position right now. 5 yards would really be the difference. And take those. Don't be greedy. Go down and let's let Justin come in and make the kick.
And here's the last highlight. Now we're going to do it again. 44-yard field goal attempt for the win. Here's the snap, the placement, the kick. It's long enough. It's up, and it is good. A delayed call. The field goal is good. The Storm wins 58-55. And there was no doubt about that kick. I mean, he absolutely nailed it, didn't he?
He did, but I can totally understand your call, how you're not trying to draw that out to make the radio fans, suffer and wait. The referee took quite a long time to raise his hands.
Yes.
Yeah, and so as Justin kicked that, I felt very much like you in that call to where it looks really good, but why isn't he signaling yet? And then he finally did turn and gave the signal.
Well, I didn't want to do like the guy did on the Miss America or Miss USA or whatever pageant it was, say the wrong thing before it's actually, before it's, official. And that's why I drug it out too. But a couple of things I wanted to mention about the 2-point conversion and also about the kick. One thing about during the 1-minute timing rules, during a point after or a 2-point conversion attempt, the clock does not run. So as far as Colorado running a play during that point after, no time would have come off the clock. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, it's a dead ball. The extra point or the 2-point conversion, either one, it wouldn't have mattered. Time would not run off the clock there.
And then the second part was the fact that I had said at the start of that last clip was, here we'll do it again. There was a timeout called right before the snap of the ball. Justin had them go ahead and snap the ball, and he tried to kick it, and it wound up kind of going off to the right. Tell us about his philosophy as far as when he gets a timeout called like that.
Well, it's something he said they would actually practice in college, and he told, because our snapping situation is still a work in progress. And so he told Snoop and Matt Hermanson that if they call timeout, which I'm sure they will, snap it. Snap that thing, and let's get it down and work on our timing, and I'll swing through. And it was funny because as Justin went to swing through on the kick, the referee runs almost right in front of him. And so, he kind of just half kicks it, and it goes wide right because of that, but it never fazed him. And that really wasn't the point at all. It was, let's get that snap off, get the hold down, let Snoop get his timing and rhythm, and I'll be good. And he came through, and that's probably the strongest kick I've seen him have all season.
And we'll be talking to Justin Syrovatka a little bit later on the Kurtiss Riggs show. Coach, you get the win out in Colorado, 58-55. It was a great win for the team, to hold together, do all of the things necessary to win on the road. It was a great learning experience and a great victory for the team, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah, anytime you can travel together and get to know each other better, it's always a good situation. And then to be able to go through a battle like we did and come out victorious is a really good learning experience, because you see with, our guys in a lot of ways still have a lot of growing up to do. I mean, when things didn't go well, you saw certain guys start to panic and they, their emotions come out. And those are things that we need to temper. We need to control those and know that there's a lot of ups and downs in the indoor game, and there's a lot of really good players out there, and they're going to make plays at times. But which team can do it more frequently and which team can sustain?
One thing about it, the season has a long ways to go. There's going to be a lot of tough games yet this year for the Storm, aren't there?
Well, I told you, I think, in the postgame that we'll have a lot of games. I don't know if they'll be exactly like this, but we'll have a lot of close games. We'll have a lot of battles. I mean, we just are not, that polished product that can go out and roll right through teams, and that's offensively and defensively. I mean, we're going to make mistakes, and I think a sign of a good team, though, is can you overcome those mistakes and then minimize those as you progress. And hopefully we can do that. I mean, I thought offensively we were better this week. I thought, we scored touchdowns on every drive except those 3 interceptions.
Yeah.
And, those are mistakes that we can clean up, and Lorenzo will. But I thought we did a lot of good things, and we're better. And I think Coach Hermanson felt like we were better from the week against Green Bay, too.
Well, you'll have another test coming up this weekend as the Sioux Falls Storm heads down to Cedar Rapids to take on the Titans. And in our next segment, Coach Riggs and I'll be talking about the Cedar Rapids Titans. And you've been listening to this segment brought to you by our friends over at Eastway Bowl and Eastway Lounge. The next viewing party is coming up on Saturday. Check it out. You can watch the game for free. And you're listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show, brought to you by our great sponsors, Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and Orthopedic Institute, and you're listening to it right here on Sioux Falls Sports Radio, AM 1230 and FM 98.1 KWSN.
When you think rugged, when you think tough, when you think big, think of the best transportation solutions, mile after mile. When you think big, think Boyer Trucks. Redefining the road.
What's the smart way to refresh your home? Get inspired by Granite Transformations. See how easy it is to transform your kitchen or bathroom with gorgeous quartz in granite backed by our lifetime warranty. Plus custom cabinet refacing, all without the mess of a traditional renovation. Explore the exciting possibilities at the New Look, New Style celebration happening now at Granite Transformations. Schedule your free in-home design consultation today.
Your body, a remarkable network of bone, tissue, and joints working in perfect harmony. But when injuries occur, that process can be interrupted. At Orthopedic Institute, orthopedic medicine is all we do. We work to get you up and moving again, recreating that perfect harmony, whatever that may be for you. Orthopedic Institute, we're the one to trust to keep your body in motion.
Kurtiss Riggs Show, presented by SIOux Falls Specialty Hospital and Orthopedic Institute on SIOux Falls Sports Radio, AM 1230 and FM 98.1 KWSN. Back to your host, Rich Roste.
Coming up is our game preview interview with the head coach, Kurtiss Riggs, and it's brought to you by our good friends over at Good Sense Deli, fresh subs. And it's Tim, not Tom, over there. Great Storm sponsors and the best bread in town. That's Good Sense Deli, fresh subs. He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Kurtiss Riggs. And, Coach, it's the Cedar Rapids Titans. You played them earlier this year. Were victorious 54-45. They are 2-0 on the year. They beat Green Bay and Tri-Cities. They lost to the Storm and Nebraska. And for the Sioux Falls Storm, it's always been a tough place to play down at Cedar Rapids. Great fans down there, great crowd, great excitement. And they're a very good football team, aren't they?
Well, you know, they're a very physical defense, and they're getting better and better offensively. I think Favre is getting more comfortable. They're doing a good job of calling the plays that cater to his style rather than the previous quarterbacks they have. So, yeah, I mean, it's a challenging place. It's one of the more challenging places just because they seem to play much more aggressive. Their fans really get behind them, and it gets really loud in that place.
For their defense, a couple of names that we have heard about for many years, also one former Storm player, but Xavier Jackson and also Jeremiah Price, they've combined for 10 sacks this year, and they have always been a force on that defensive line for the Titans, haven't they?
Yeah, it's really I mean, those two guys are the mainstays for them. And, you know, Jeremiah was very deserving of Defensive Player of the Year last year, and he's probably on pace right now to have another season like that. And they got after us the first time at our place. Those two guys, they caused a lot of problems for us. And I think you'll see that hopefully we're a little more aware of the situation with those two, and we have to stay out of third and long situations, because that's where those two guys just thrive, is when they know they can pin their ears back and really get after you.
Looking at them on the defensive line, do they have a disciplined type of defensive line? In other words, they have definite plays that they run, that they, you know, areas of coverage that they have to maintain, or do they just pin their ears back and just get to the quarterback any way they can?
You know, they're two different styles. Xavier he's very unpredictable, meaning you just are not sure what he's going to do. And because there could be times where he doesn't rush, and then all of a sudden he comes at you like a bull, and he's very good when he wants to be. And then on the opposite end is Jeremiah, who is so tremendously athletic that he is very, very good. That you know what he's going to do. He's going to be fundamentally sound, and you try to take advantage of it, but the problem is he's so athletic that he can recover so quickly. And you see very few guys like that are able to do that, because at times he'll slant in hard, but he's so athletic he can spin back out and get back outside. those squeeze plays down, you try to get outside of him, he's able to pursue and catch your quarterback. So it can be very difficult, and you really have to pick and choose when you want to try to go at either one of those guys.
They also have a great running back in Wayman James, and he has 7 rushing touchdowns this year. Favre has thrown for 11 touchdown passes, but James has 7 rushing touchdowns, and he brings a different element for them. They've always had a pretty good running back, but this guy just seems like he's a step above the ones they've had in the past.
Yeah, I think the difference from the ones in the past, he's very much like the ones in the past where he'll carry guys and fall forward. He's very, very strong. The difference now, though, is he's very elusive, too. He is very good in tiny spaces, making people miss or making you have to try to arm tackle him rather than having a clean shot on him. In the past, they would have a big physical back that you could really get good shots on. But now he's very difficult in those small areas. He can just shoot right through, and he's gone for a touchdown. And, you know, he's their kick returner, too. He's a lethal weapon back there also.
Then you look at Favre, the quarterback. After seeing him the first go-around, he has such a very short, quick snap release. Do you work that into your practice of your defense, getting a quarterback that has that, like a catcher snapping it off to first base? Can you kind of coach against that, or how does that work, Coach?
Well, that's pretty tough. I mean, we want to try to mix up the looks, and because he'll catch and release very quickly. You know, we just have to try to be sound and be in position right away, because if we can get him confused by some of the looks and be in position, you know, we can take advantage of that and get some interceptions. But, you know, he's more comfortable now. His timing has gotten better. We've got to try to disrupt that timing and make him uncomfortable.
Coach, big game down in Cedar Rapids, and we'll have the coverage on our sister station, KELQ 107.9, with a pregame show at about 6:45. Coach, the bottom line for the Storm to be successful on the road against the Titans?
Well, we've got to maintain. I mean, there's going to be some definite ups and downs in this game, far more than in Colorado. And so we've got to be able to maintain our composure, because, you know, we're going to get a great officiating crew, and we've got to be able to just go out and know that at times Cedar's going to make some plays, and don't panic because of that. You know, if we can go in and just maintain that composure and not panic, you're going to have a chance at the end of the game, and really that's all you want. You want to make sure you have a chance to win the game, especially on the road at their place.
Coach, what time does the bus leave on Friday?
We're going to leave at 1:05 on Friday, Rich, 1:05.
And I'll be on the bus, and I want to thank the Corey Williams landlords for the neat gift that they gave me, and I'll be sure that I eat those 30-second cookies and not have to eat the 2-minute ones.
You're lucky you had those left by the time we got to you, Rich.
Coach, good talking to you. We'll see you on the bus Friday.
All right, thanks, Rich.
He is the head coach of the SIOux Falls Storm, Kurtiss Riggs, and when we come back, we'll have the Wingstop Stop ticket giveaway, and that'll be during the break after we talk to Kyle Bryant, an offensive lineman with the SIOux Falls Storm. But this game preview brought to you by our friends at Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs, longtime Storm sponsors, and it's Tim, not Tom. You're listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show right here on SIOux Falls Sports Radio, AM 1230 and FM 98.1 KWSN.
People that I work with are family. We get more time with the patients to deliver that personalized care.
I know that our patients are satisfied and happy with their outcomes.
And I've had more than one patient say to me, you know, I can really feel that you guys like being here and taking care of patients. And that's wonderful to hear, because that's the truth.
We give the best care in the world.
And just a better overall experience for the patient.
And that's why I chose to come work here at SIOux Falls Specialty Hospital.
Breathe easier when you have your ducts cleaned by Waterbury. Call us today.
Eastway Bowl is more than just bowling. It's a full experience entertainment center. Like us on Facebook and visit our website to learn more about the full experience at Eastway Bowl.
When you think rugged, when you think tough, when you think big, think of the best transportation solutions mile after mile. When you think big, think Boyer trucks. Redefining the road.
You're listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show, presented by SIoux Falls Specialty Hospital and Orthopedic Institute on SIoux Falls Sports Radio, AM 1230 and FM 98.1 KWSN. Back to your host, Rich Roste.
Coming up, our Storm player interview and Storm ticket giveaway brought to you by Wingstop of Sioux Falls. It's more than a meal. It's a flavor experience. And after the interview with Kyle Bryant, we'll be taking the third caller at 336-1230 for 4 free tickets to the game on April 9th at the Denny Sanford Premier Center. And maybe I should kind of fill you folks in what I talked to Coach Riggs about in the last segment about the cookies. Corey Williams' landlords had been watching the Storm streaming, and there's a video. It actually shows me in the press box, and I got to a point there was a 2-minute timeout, and they could see me online and they could hear me, and I said to John, our engineer back at the studio, I said, well, we got 2-minute timeout. I'm going to have some cookies here that I have on my desk, so I'm eating cookies, and they can actually see me do that. And they thought it'd be a good idea for when I have just 30-second timeouts that I could still have a cookie, and so they got me those little mini Oreos to have for the 30-second timeouts, and I appreciate that very much. Joining us via the fan line, an offensive lineman with the Sioux Falls Storm, Kyle Bryant. Kyle, thanks for being on the Kurtiss Riggs Show.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me, man. It's my pleasure.
Well, I tell you what, you got on the field this past weekend. Tell us about what it was like to get back on the playing surface during the course of a game.
Oh, it was refreshing, man. You know, I just came up from, back home, and it was a transition. You know, I was playing second string, had to work my way up to the, first string, and it was just all a process. And it was just refreshing to get out there and play some ball. It's been a while, so I had some kinks to work out. But I had a pretty good game, and we won, so that's the overall thing.
One thing about it, when you're working with Charlie Sanders at center and Mania Smith on the other side, I mean, you got two guys there that can really mentor you even during the course of a game, can't they?
Oh, yeah, for sure, man. Two great guys, great integrity guys that just want to help, and help the team overall cause. And, yeah, for sure, during the game, they give me pointers and tips all the time. So it just helped me, stay focused during the game and stay the course.
Now, you played at Bowling Green and Youngstown State. Tell us about your time in college playing ball.
Well, I was at Bowling Green from 09 to 12. I had redshirted my freshman year. Started a couple games in my sophomore year, then went into my junior year starting at Bowling Green. I just needed a change of scenery, and I kind of, switched it up and went to Youngstown, and I finished my college career there from 2013 to 2014. I started 2 years there, made it to the East-West Shrine game, and, I had some pretty good moments.
What is it about playing college football that is such a great experience? People don't realize what it's like when you're in those big stadiums and playing these big games, how much adrenaline comes out of the fan experience for a player on the field. Tell us about that.
Oh, yeah, that's huge. But for me personally, it was what I loved about college football was just the camaraderie, the family atmosphere. If you can get a group of guys that just come from all over the nation, to come together for a common cause and put all their issues aside and just have that team camaraderie, that's just the biggest thing that I missed about college and that I liked about college so much. And also, like you said, playing in front of those big crowds on those big stages, it's just that adrenaline rush. It's good to go out there and, react and respond to what the crowd, gives you and feed off of that.
But now you're going into indoor football, and the same thing is happening again. I could see it with you and your interaction with the players on the bus and the team. That same camaraderie is there. And we still have not as big a crowds, but they're intense crowds right on top of you. So that experience is coming back to you, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure, man. I definitely miss that, and that's definitely one of the aspects of the game I love the most.
You know, at the beginning of the year, I always hand out a questionnaire to the players. We're talking to Kyle Bryant, offensive lineman with the Sioux Falls Storm. And one of the things that you put on there about what is something that maybe folks don't know about you, and you wrote down, I love shoes. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Oh, man, I'm a big shoe fan, man. I'm always online or out in stores just looking for shoes. Funny thing is, I wear size 16, so sometimes it's kind of a challenge to try to find some good shoes that I like. But, man, I'm definitely up for the challenge, and I definitely find some good stuff. So, man, I just like to stay up on my shoes, keep my shoes clean, and it's just one thing I always had a pet peeve about.
Tell us, what is this? What's your favorite shoe? Casual, dress, which is it?
I would say gym shoe at the moment. Gym shoe at the moment, but casual, loafer, slip-in type shoe. Yeah, I like wingtip. I had a pair of wingtip Kohans. It's probably my favorite pair of dress shoes. Nice casual pair.
You know, I don't have nearly that large of feet, but I had boots, and I would say that this would be the same thing for you. I did some work for our neighbor farmer when I was a kid, and he asked me, what was I going to do with my boots after I was done with them? And I said, I don't know, I'll probably throw them away. He says, well, can I have them? I want to store corn in them. And
yeah, I get the big foot jokes a lot, yeah.
And the thing about it is, when you wear that size 16, that's just an amazing size. But it's you go into a shoe store at this particular time, size 16 is not an unusual size anymore, is it?
No, not really, man. The thing that I've come across in most stores, they at least get 1 to 2 size 15 and 16 in every pair. So if you're a big guy and you first there, first come, first serve, you pretty much can find you something.
What do you like to do off the field, away from football?
Well, a lot of people don't know. The first sport I had a college offer or a college scholarship for was basketball. So I'm a huge basketball fan, and I love the game. It was actually my first love, and I started playing football a little late, and I just took a liking and started to love football. But yes, out of football, basketball, and just getting out there. The camaraderie and the teamwork of that sport is what I like a lot. So basketball.
Well, I tell you what, you're one of the big ones, 6'6.5", 320 pounds, and I think that's those are legitimate numbers, aren't they?
Yeah. I'm pretty much as you were saying, basketball 7-footer for football, but basketball. The only reason I didn't go that route was because I was a little undersized. As you can only imagine, I'm a 6'6" center. I'm going to get 6'10" and 6'11" centers, and our point guard was about 6'6", so you can only imagine I was undersized on the court a little bit.
I have one final question for you, and I ask pretty much every lineman that I've ever had on the show. Do you ever hold a defensive lineman?
All the time. If you're not holding, you're not trying.
That's a great answer.
As long as it's inside the frame of the body work, it'll never get called. And this is something I learned throughout just playing ball for a long time. If the defensive linemen are complaining, you're doing your job correct.
Well, that's exactly right. Well, Kyle, great game this past Sunday afternoon. I appreciate getting to know you these last couple of years with the Sioux Falls Storm, and my very best to you as this season progresses.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
Kyle Bryant, offensive lineman with the Sioux Falls Storm. When we go to break, we'll take your third caller at 336-1230. 336-1230 for 4 free tickets to the game coming up on April 9th against the Cedar Rapids Titans, and all courtesy of Wingstop. It's a meal experience on 26th in Minnesota, just south of Walgreens. And we'll be back with another player interview, Justin Syrovatka, as the Kurtiss Riggs Show continues right here on Sioux Falls Sports Radio, AM 1230 and FM 98.1 KWSN.
What's the smart way to refresh your home? Get inspired by Granite Transformations. See how easy it is to transform your kitchen or bathroom with gorgeous quartz in granite backed by our lifetime warranty. Plus custom cabinet refacing, all without the mess of a traditional renovation. Explore the exciting possibilities at the New Look, New Style celebration happening now at Granite Transformations. Schedule your free in-home design consultation today.
Your body, a remarkable network of bone, tissue, and joints working in perfect harmony. But when injuries occur, that process can be interrupted. At Orthopedic Institute, orthopedic medicine is all we do. We work to get you up and moving again, recreating that perfect harmony, whatever that may be for you. Orthopedic Institute, we're the one to trust to keep your body in motion.
Breathe easier when you have your ducts cleaned by Waterbury. Call us today. Routine services can save you money in the long run. Call Waterbury to schedule yours today.
Kurtiss Riggs Show, presented by SIoux Falls Specialty Hospital and Orthopedic Institute on SIoux Falls Sports Radio, AM 1230 and FM 98.1 KWSN. Back to your host, Rich Roste.
And our player interview and ticket giveaway brought to you by Wingstop of SIoux Falls, more than a meal. It's a flavor experience, and we'll take your third caller at 336-1230 when we go to break for 4 free tickets for the game coming up on April 9th at the Denny Sanford Premier Center. And joining us via the fan line, kicker with the SIoux Falls Storm, Justin Syrovatka. And Justin, thanks for being on the Kurtiss Riggs Show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I tell you what, I talked to you after the game out in Colorado, and you were one excited guy. That was a great kick, a great ball game overall, but that was exciting for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was my real last game winner, I would say, at the last second. I had one in college with about a minute left on the clock, but nothing as the clock expired, so that was pretty cool.
Okay, take us through that last series. There was you got lined up to do the kick, and then they called a timeout, and Coach and I talked about it a little bit, but walk us through that process and why you do things that way.
As far as why the coach called timeout?
When they call a timeout, that you go ahead and they snap it, and you go through it. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so what's funny is I always told my snapper in college to do that. I didn't tell Snoop to do that, but he did it anyway, so I was glad he did that. It's just kind of a nice little practice shot for me is the way I take it. So I almost think it's an advantage for them to call a timeout because I get a free kick at the uprights there. And on this one, I kind of shanked it. I thought I was going to hit the ref, so I had to hold off on the kick a little bit.
Yeah, that would have been probably not the best thing that you could have done if you'd have put that right upside his ear.
Yeah, I know.
But then we had to do it again. And I think that was their last timeout, so you knew there wasn't going to be another freeze timeout. And take us through the mindset of how you prepare yourself for a kick that's that important.
I mean, before any kick, I mean, you can't treat that kick any different than any other kick. So all I try and do is just sit there and not think about it. They had the music blasting, so I was just focusing on that, and I don't know, not thinking about the kick at all, I guess.
And walk us through, I mean, this has been a bit of a struggle for the Storm this year as far as the snap back. And one of the things that Coach Riggs has talked about is that you are very patient, irregardless of the snap. You don't let that frustrate you. You just wait, you get it set, and you make the kick. Tell us about how that has worked and how you keep your mind concentrating on the kick regardless of the snap.
Yeah, so that was a big thing. In college, I transitioned between 2 different snappers in college and 2 or 3 different holders. So throughout all that transitioning, you kind of just get used to it, and you realize you can only control what you can do. So you try and not worry about, the snap or the hold. I've got a really good holder in Hermanson, and then we had John, who was snapping there for a bit, and then he left the team, and then Snoop stepped in, and he's been snapping really well too.
When you get ready to kick, are you the type of kicker that has to have the ball a certain tilt, laces out, in, Or do you just, whatever it is? Tell us about those things in your mind.
Yeah, so when it's a PAT, I'm just hoping, as long as Herm gets it down, I don't really care about laces too much there. But, you know, when it gets a little bit further back, you always want the laces out so you aren't hitting those. And then I prefer to have the tilt a little bit away from me so it can kind of make up for me kicking and curving the ball, I guess.
How much difference does that make in a kick?
The tilt of the ball makes a ton of difference. Because if it's tilted towards me, it's just going to follow my foot, and then it'll fly way left, you know, where if it's tilted to the right or towards the holder, it's going to stay pretty well straight in line. So it seems weird, but it makes a huge difference.
Talking to Justin Syrovatka, the kicker for the Sioux Falls Storm, that nailed a 46-yard field goal to ice the game for the Sioux Falls Storm, winning 58-55. That thing was hit with such authority, and that would have carried, you know, probably a 55 or longer kick, in my opinion, because you nailed it so well. What is it about sometimes that it just snaps off your foot like that kick did?
I mean, that all comes down to you thinking about the kick, and I know Riggs has been on me a few times that I've been thinking about the kick too much. I know that happened in Sioux Falls. On the one before the half, I thought I had to just kill the ball, and I slipped on my plant foot. So you try and make every kick the same. It doesn't matter if it's a PAT, which is a 20-yard kick, or a 60-yard field goal. You want everything to be the same. So as long as you do what you need to do, the ball should hopefully fly the same every single time.
Now, you grew up and went to school in high school here in Sioux Falls, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I went to Roosevelt.
Went to Roosevelt, and you've always been a kicker?
Yep, always been a kicker. I started football in 8th grade, and then I played a little bit of defense in high school as well.
Okay. So did you play soccer?
I did, yep. I played soccer probably from, I don't know, probably 4 years old up until I was 19. I did that through my first year of college.
So that was the part that you had done the soccer kicking prior to playing football, and that's where your basis and your experience really began, didn't it?
Yeah, you could say that. I know there's a lot of soccer players who are good kickers, but it's funny, you would think they would all be, but I know some guys that I played soccer with, they were terrible at kicking the football. They all thought they could do it, so that was fun. I would go out and practice. I would be kicking footballs before a soccer practice, and they would all try, and some of them were good, but some of them just, they didn't get it.
Well, there's a difference in the ball, oblong versus round, and there's a whole different mindset about it. When you are working out, how much actually kicking do you do versus just working on your mechanics?
It's tough to say, you know. You try and in indoor it's a little bit different than outdoor, because outdoor your kickoffs, you know, you need to go about 70, 80 yards, where indoor you don't want them to go past 55 yards, 60 yards. So it's a lot different in indoor. Outdoor, you try and limit yourself a lot more on kickoffs, where indoor, my kickoff approach is basically my field goal approach. So it's not too much different, but you can definitely wear yourself out if you kick a ton in one day.
Now, this sport, the indoor football league, kicking off very seldom, although you have done some of it, kicking off on a squib kick or a line drive has become much more prevalent within this league. How much of a transition has that been for you to try to be able to place a football on a kick in a certain direction or a certain area?
Well, being blessed growing up in this windy state, we actually had to squib quite a bit in high school too at Howard Woods. So we would usually go deep on half and then squib against the wind. So it's a little bit different. You know, you aren't fighting a wind, you're indoor, but it's just trying to get the perfect kick. So, because if you can bounce it over the wall, they get it at the 5-yard line, where if you hit it over the wall, they get it at the 20. So that's kind of the adjustment, is trying to get that perfect bounce. And if you ever watch Riggs, he's always yelling at me after kickoffs, because sometimes I try and work on that too much versus angling the football. So. So, yeah, it's a little bit of an adjustment, but it's coming along.
Well, one thing about it, you talked about the wind. I did see where the ball blew off the tee one time for you out in Colorado.
Yeah, that was a nice seam in the football field there. Couldn't get that thing to stay up.
Well, Justin, it's great to have you part of the Sioux Falls Storm, and congratulations on the big kick out in Colorado, giving the Storm the win 58-55. Plus, you had great point afters and the field goal and a great kickoff. Congratulations on a big game, and thanks for being on the Kurtiss Riggs Show.
Yeah, thank you. We'll see you.
Justin Syrovatka, kicker with the Sioux Falls Storm. When we go to break, we'll take the third caller at 336-1230 for 4 free tickets, courtesy of Wingstop. And when we come back, we'll wrap up the Kurtiss Riggs Show, and you're listening to it right here on Sioux Falls Sports Radio, AM 1230 and FM 98.1 KWSN.
When you think rugged, when you think tough, when you think big, think of the best transportation solutions mile after mile. When you think big, think Boyer Trucks. Redefining the road.
Eastway Bowl is more than just bowling. It's a full experience entertainment center. Like us on Facebook and visit our website to learn more about the full experience at Eastway Bowl.
Breathe easier when you have your ducts cleaned by Waterbury. Call us today.
Presented by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and Orthopedic Institute on Sioux Falls Sports Radio, AM 1230 and FM 98.1 KWSN. Back to your host, Rich Roste.
Well, I want to thank all of you for making the Kurtiss Riggs Show a part of your afternoon and listening. Appreciate the callers that have called in. It's always fun to talk to them, and today has been no exception. And after we go off the air, we'll take another third caller for 4 free tickets, courtesy of Wingstop. It's more than a meal; it's a flavor experience on South Minnesota on 26th Street in Minnesota, just south of Walgreens on Minnesota Avenue. But Kurtiss Riggs Show is brought to you each and every week at this time, courtesy of Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital, the Storm official healthcare team, and also by Orthopedic Institute, the one to trust. And it's been a fun show today. I want to thank Coach Riggs for every time we visit about a game, win or lose. He is always so very straightforward as far as his answers are concerned. There's no question that's off limits, and he's always very open about everything, and I really appreciate that. About him and the way he conducts his the interviews with me, and always appreciate that very much. Also want to thank Kyle Bryant and Justin Syrovatka for being on the show. Great interviews, both of those guys. And folks, if you haven't had a chance to check it out, but go to the Storm website tomorrow afternoon, and you can watch the entire Kurtiss Riggs Show. Matt Gage from the Gage team will be putting this on the Storm website. There's going to be some graphics there, and possibly will be the video of the highlights that we showed today, or ran today. Just check that all out. And also, there's an archive. You can go back and listen to other Kurtiss Riggs Show. That's all brought to you by Boyer Trucks. The podcast is brought to you by Boyer Trucks here in Sioux Falls, and really appreciate that they sponsor that podcast for the Kurtiss Riggs Show. This week, the Storm's traveling up to Cedar Rapids to take on the Titans. That's a Saturday night game, and you can hear the broadcast starting with our pregame show at 6:45, and that's going to be on our sister station, KELQ 107.9 FM. Also going out to Eastway Lounge, there's the viewing party out there. You can watch it free and hear the broadcast also. Again, I want to thank head coach Kurtiss Riggs, Kyle Bryant, and Justin Syrovatka. Also, John Michaels, our KWSN studio producer and engineer. And also you, our listening audience, for making us a part of your day. And you've been listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show right here on Sioux Falls Sports Radio, AM 1230 and FM 98.1 KWSN. Have a great evening, everyone.
Beat them. They beat Texas there.